think one thing for me that's oh, well, thank you for being here and having us here. Very grateful. One thing that preoccupies my mind a lot is looking at humanity now and what it's doing to planet, and it feels like we're, as a species, running off a cliff. And the endemic systems of capitalism, political realism that hold us in this pattern. And just wondering your perspective as you, especially here, as you're looking at that, and how you resolve what's happening more globally, and then, for me, feeling the suffering of nature and the future suffering of humanity, especially in a place in India where you have a massive climate change risk.
Yes.
Where there could be displacements of hundreds of millions of people.
Yes.
Like, how do you resolve that? What can you share with us to get find peace in this?
Great question. For me, the answer to that is also in a yes and, in a spaciousness. It's not a resolution. It's not that you somehow figure out how to live in peace while everyone is on the verge of suffering around you. And I don't think that's the highest goal. On a human level, the goal is most definitely not, oh, please give me the mantra so I can live in heaven while everyone else around me lives in hell. It's give me the mantra, give me the power to live in peace so that I can be an agent, an instrument, a vehicle, a vessel to bring peace to others. Because if I'm not in peace, I actually cannot bring to the world what the world needs. And this is where you see a very real situation we're in with God knows how many activists, God knows how many NGOs, God knows how many people working and shouting and fasting and screaming and picketing and da-da-da-da-da, and things aren't getting better. We need all of that. But what we need is that from people who themselves are anchored and grounded and connected to actually be able to be channels for the divine flow. Or you end up in a situation, as my guru says, where the work becomes all about egos and logos. And it's never actually then about serving the planet, it's about serving our ego and our logo. My organization, my name, my report, my this, our that. So what we need on two levels is to first recognize that we need to do our spiritual practice that drops us into the connection, the love of the divine with the awareness of the perfection of the divine. And this is where that beautiful teaching, I've heard it many different ways from many different people, that basically says, imagine a mountain that is a mile high and a mile wide. And imagine that every 100 years, a bird with a silk scarf in its feather flies by this 100-mile high, 100-mile wide mountain and swipes the silk scarf over the side of the mountain. In the amount of time it takes that bird to erode the mountain down is how long we have been doing this. And so when you have that vision of what in Sanatan Dharma we speak about as the yugas, the eras, in which you're looking at eras of hundreds of thousands of years each, and a cycle of the eras, and you realize the creation is in a cycle. I mean, and even just on a purely scientific level, we know that we've gone through many different ages on Earth. The Earth has gone through an ice age. We have gone through extinctions. And we understand kind of the perfection of the wisdom of, on the one hand, Mother Earth herself, on the other hand, the divine, where we say there is nothing but God. It is all the divine, it is all perfect. You anchor in that, not to foster complacency, not to sit this one out. I am deeply and fervently and ardently convinced that in this particular scene of what we call the Leela, the divine drama, no one has been allocated the role of sit this one out. No one has been allocated the role of sit in the audience and clap or boo or whatever it may be. It's an all hands on deck act in the divine drama. But if you don't have that connection on a deep level, the stress, the tension, the ego, the racing mindness actually prevents you from being an efficient and an effective instrument of service. I remember when I first came, Pujya Swamiji took me to see these schools in this awful slum, 10, 11 schools that they had come to him to see if our organization would adopt. Kids were coming every day, teachers were there, but the schools were falling apart. They were in these awful slums. And they no longer had any money to run the schools. So they didn't have money to pay the teachers, they didn't have money for books or anything. So Swamiji takes me to go see them. And we spend the day in slums that were worse than I had ever seen in any movie I had ever seen. Worse than I could have ever imagined. And at the end of the day, we got back to our ashram in Delhi, and I'm sobbing hysterically. I mean, I sobbed the whole way back. And it's dinner time, and he says, have dinner. And I say, I can't eat dinner, oh my God, these kids, oh my God. And he looks at me and he says, are your tears helping them? And I say, no, but oh my God. And he says, all your tears are doing is making your ego feel good that you are such a compassionate person that you can't eat dinner because, oh my God, those people are suffering. He said, you're not actually helping them at all. All you're doing is feeling good about yourself in terms of, look at how compassionate I am. He said, if you really wanted to do something for them, you would have dinner, you would go to sleep early so that you could get up at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning and start figuring out how you're going to raise the money to adopt all 10 schools. And to me, that's the yes and. Because it's obviously not just about dinner and a good night's sleep. It's about a spiritual connection and anchoring and grounding that enables you to be a channel for the work without getting burned out, so that, you're really able to see what is needed and act accordingly, because that's what we need. We don't need more NGOs. We don't need more. The answers are there. We have the answers. It's not rocket science. What we need is people who are connected and conscious to actually live those answers. I mean, you look at the things that would make the biggest difference in the world that we face today. You look at our eating habits, and you look at our shopping habits. And the impact on carbon, methane, and pollution of our very, very limited and very quickly diminishing water resources on planet Earth. The meat industry and the fashion industry combined. I mean, the meat industry in and of itself, but when you bring in fashion also, you are covering the vast majority of causes for that which is happening to our environment, causes of world hunger, causes of hundreds of millions of people having to leave their home due to lack of water. So if those who have the luxury to choose make choices that are conscious, because they are consciously connected, we will achieve far more than if we simply allow ourselves to get wrought up into states of anger at our government and our multinational corporations, about which we can do very little other than post on Facebook. If we actually allow ourselves to work in the areas in which we do have influence, in which we do have impact, in which we do have a ripple effect. You know, I'll give you an India example. Everybody's all clean Ganga, clean Ganga, clean Ganga, clean Ganga. Great, yeah, Ganga needs to be clean. We're working for it. And yet, everybody wants leather car seats, leather handbags, leather shoes. The tanneries are these, industrial waste and the waste of the tanneries are the single greatest contributor to the toxic waste in Ganga. And you think, you people are shouting that Ganga should be clean, and then everybody's walking out and putting on their leather shoes and picking up their leather handbags. If we actually said, we will not buy leather unless you are certified, I mean, forget the cruelty to the animals for a moment, but we said, unless you are certified that no waste from your leather production factory is going into Ganga, it would have far more of an impact than all of the picket signs. I mean, I remember when I was growing up in LA and apartheid was just ending in South Africa. So when I was a teenager in LA and apartheid was ending in South Africa, thankfully, but we were still fighting. I mean, it was still an issue. They were not giving up so easily. All of the governments, the UN, like everybody had done all of what they did. All of the companies had pulled out of apartheid South Africa. Coors beer was still in South Africa. And somebody decided that what needed to happen was Coors beer needed to be boycotted so that an economic pressure would force them to do what social pressure could not. I mean, and we were far below the official drinking age, and yet nobody I knew would so much as look at a Coors beer, let alone actually buy one. And eventually they had to pull out because the economic pressure did what the social pressure could not. Same thing with dolphin-safe tuna. I remember being a younger kid when everybody had tuna fish sandwiches for lunch, and Greenpeace did this big campaign around the tuna industry killing the dolphins. And nobody would eat tuna fish until some brand of tuna fish came up with a dolphin-safe tuna sticker logo, and then it was like, oh my, I mean, we held our parents to this, like, show me the can. So there is an ability to bring about change if we actually all are prepared to change aspects of our lives and lifestyles. And the problem is very few people are prepared to do that. If those who have the luxury to choose really choose consciously, I don't know if we could end climate change entirely or whether that ship has sailed, but we most certainly could protect and save many, many, many lives of not only our human brothers and sisters, but all of the biodiversity on this planet. We could abate it to a huge extent. We could slow it down to a huge extent. We could make it far less of the imminent disaster that it is. It's our choices that are pushing this along. And this is where our consciousness is so important. So we have time for one more question. I've got a 5-minute signal.
Back to you. 5 minutes.